So when you uh, okay, so right when I get started, I'll do share screen, and then I'll drag this little window over there. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We'll figure it out. Okay, let's do this. Are we good? Good morning and welcome. I'm Melanie Majors. I'm the Executive Director of the New Mexico Foundation for Open Government. And I want to thank you all for coming to our first ever DataFest ArtQuest. We believe it's the first, we know it's the first in Albuquerque, and we think maybe it's the first in the nation of an effort to provide information about your right to know with public art data. Public arts is huge in New Mexico, it's huge in Albuquerque, and we were very, very lucky at FOG to be able to partner with the folks at the city of Albuquerque. We actually have 2 days of activities. We've got some workshops, we've got some data gathering, and then next week we're actually going to hopefully work on a application so that we can do something really terrific with the data that we've gathered. I'm going to give you a little background on FOG before I go. The New Mexico Foundation for Open Government is a 30-year-old organization. It is nonpartisan. It is nonprofit. It has one mission: protecting your right to know. We advocate, educate, and litigate on behalf of the First Amendment. And in New Mexico, that translates into the Inspection of Public Records Act and the Open Meetings Act. The Inspection of Public Records Act is New Mexico's version of the Freedom of Information Act. I want you all to have fun. We're so glad you're here. We're hoping that something exciting turns out with this. And if you have questions, please contact one of us. And now I'd like to introduce Mark Leach, who is with the city of Albuquerque.
Thank you, Melanie. My name is Mark Leach. I'm Deputy Director with the Department of Technology Innovation. I've got to say I'm so excited that we've got people attending this today, and big welcome whether or not you're in person or whether or not you're online. We're glad you're here. Okay? And I don't know about you, but I've had enough of the pandemic, and this feels a little bit like a return to normal, right? So this is just such a cool event to be able to say, hey, Albuquerque, we're back. We're back in person, we're back online, we're back as a tech community. And I want to just take this opportunity to reaffirm our commitment to transparency. It's great being a partner with New Mexico Foundation for Open Government on this. We've had a great relationship with them in the past. This is just so cool to be able to bring everything together. And one of the themes I want to think about, kind of like certainly today and over the next week or so, is really kind of like reaching out. And reaching out takes different forms, yeah? We're reaching out, we're kind of like coming out of our bubbles, we're kind of like realizing that certainly in person today there's these things that don't have frames around our faces, and they actually have legs and arms, and kind of like you can see people again. But reaching out is also important because even inside of City Hall, sometimes information gets stovepiped. So what you're seeing today is a unique opportunity where departments have got together. We've had Arts and Cultural Services, we've had City Clerk, we've had DTI, which is the Department of Technology and Innovation. We've all got together and we've put data together. We've thought about how we present that data, what that data means. And now we're reaching out to you. And I want to say a big thank you for you guys taking time from your busy lives. It's not got any easier with the pandemic. So I'm really thankful that you're all here today, whether or not in person or online. And thank you so much for being here. And I want to reach out to you and I want to see what you guys can do with our data. Yeah? And this is part of the reaching out because as we're coming out of the pandemic, we're going to be in a unique opportunity to reach out and move forward. Yeah? Whether or not it's through public art or whether or not it's through technology. I want to be ready for Albuquerque to be the next hub certainly for technology, and also the place where people want to come and say, Albuquerque is a great place to be. It's a great place to visit. It's got some great public art. Yeah? So we are in a unique situation now. We're ready to go. We've got the pumps primed. All we have to do is start believing in ourselves and start putting these projects together. So what are the goals for today? Melanie's already talked a lot about that, and I want to say basically, number one goal is to have fun. Yeah, whether or not you're online, whether or not you're in person, have fun, do something. I also want to say reach out in a way that you've not reached out before, whether or not it's reaching out to somebody sitting next to you, whether or not it's reaching out to a group or an institution that you haven't reached out to before. Network, talk to people. Right? We know we're stronger when we work together as a community. When we work in isolation, that's where the problem is. So I'd say reach out, do something different, talk to that person that maybe you've never spoken to. Maybe you don't know what their background is. Reach out to them and talk. Obviously, we're going to have some great opportunities to interact with public art, and we are so lucky in Albuquerque. We have got such a vibrant public art program. It's got a great history. I never knew, coming from England a few years ago, I never knew how far back the public art program goes. It's got a fascinating history. We've got fascinating pieces of art. We are so lucky, blessed to have this kind of public. And then finally, we're here for to reaffirm that we're here for transparency and open data. Open data and transparency is an important part of who we are as a government. It's an important part of accountability to the residents, to you, to me. So really, we want to say we're back. We're here. We're here to be transparent. Okay, and with that, there's really not much more to say. Have fun, like I say, talk to people. Yeah, this is an event for communication as much as anything. Yeah, if everybody's sitting there silently, not much fun. But we are so excited to be doing this. We're just glad you're all here. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Eric. Who's up next? Oh, there you go. You got that bit wrong, didn't I? Okay, Sherry, thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. We did get started a little bit later, just trying to get all the technical stuff set up, and I got a couple minutes here before we go into our 9 o'clock introduction and overview about public art. So I'm going to just make sure that we've got all of our technical stuff in place so that we make sure that we are really reaching everybody who's online, who's joining us by Zoom, who's joining us live on Facebook. And just want to make sure I'm good to go. So give me 1 second. I think I'm going to share screen. And Eric, you let me know if I'm in the right mode here. Okay, we're good? All right. So the reason why I'm sharing screen is because one of our guest presenters, Kent Swanton from the Bernalillo County Public Art Program, is joining us remotely on the Zoom meeting. So I've got the helm of the PowerPoint presentation to tell you about public art, and then he's going to jump in on Zoom, and we're going to move the right screen over to the big screen. So I hope everybody hangs with us while I navigate this up here. But yeah, okay, if this is the worst that it gets, then I think I'm good. I think I'm good. Now it's just a matter of making sure that I can move my slides. So, okay. I'm Sherry Brueggemann. I'm the division manager of the Urban Enhancement Trust, the Public Art Urban Enhancement Division of the Department of Arts and Culture for the city of Albuquerque. And I'm honored and pleased to be part of this incredible project. We have the 15th oldest public art program in the United States. It was established in 1978, and we have an amazing collection of public art. And my presentation this morning is to give you a little bit of overview about how public art comes about, and then all of the material and data that we've used to manage that collection and compile information over many, many years. And so at the end, I'll have Kent jump on, and he's going to talk about the Bernalillo County collection, which I'm also privileged to have a lot of experience with that as well. And then I'll be sure to recognize all of our incredible participants at the end of the presentation. So, oops, okay, let me get my keys working here. Okay, next screen, yay. So what I want to share with you a little bit is sort of about the methods of how public art is selected, the outcomes of what public art is and looks like and how it gets placed, and then some of the terminology that we use. And this is just a brief overview of a lot of information. Okay, so 1% for art, public art in Albuquerque is technically 1% of voter-approved general obligation bonds. So every 2 years, citizens of Albuquerque go to the polls and vote. It's usually during a municipal election where we also vote for city councilors and sometimes mayors. But every 2 years, we have a general obligation bond package. And that includes funding for things like libraries, bicycle trails, swimming pools, fire stations, streets, storm drainage, all the things that the city builds in our community. And when the voters approve that bond package, it's usually somewhere between 120 million, sometimes it's been up to 140 million. 1% of that entire bond package is set aside for public art. And it is set aside by the bond purpose. So if we have a Parks and Recreation bond purpose, that will fund new parks and swimming pools and those kinds of things, 1% of that entire bond purpose is set aside to fund public art. So when we commission or acquire public art, we do it by bond purpose. So that means swimming pools, parks, everything that was embedded in that bond purpose is eligible for a public art project. So public art follows the infrastructure dollars. We've been doing this for 42 and a half years. The previous administrations, I believe it was Mayor Kenny, is the one who actually implemented the 1% for art ordinance, and we've had 42 and a half years of creating public art. The ordinance does two things. It establishes the funding mechanism, and it also establishes the Albuquerque Arts Board, which is an advisory board that makes the final selections for the public art. So over those 42 and a half years, we have just over 1,100 works of art. And I know that when you start looking at the data, you'll be able to see the exact amount. You're also going to see a lot of other numbers, and we'll talk about those details later. The types of public art that we commission, or the public art that we have in our collection is basically two types. Site-specific commissions, those are works of art that are commissioned by an artist to be made for a specific site, mostly outdoors, sometimes indoors. And they're not generally movable. They're large-scale sculptures outside or mounted to a wall, such as all the mosaic tile around this building that we're in at the Albuquerque Convention Center. Sometimes sculptures are movable, but they're usually site-specific. Our collection has about of those 1,100, about 2/5 of those artworks are outdoor artworks. The next style is two-dimensional or small-scale three-dimensional works, which is what we call the portable collection. Those are everything from photography, tapestries, paintings, weavings, all the different things that we can hang on the wall or that we can move around to different locations. That is about 3/5 of the collection. Oops, typo. Yeah, 2/5 outdoor works, 3/5 indoor works. So every single object has a identification number. It's called a PAC, a Public Art Collection Number. And anybody who starts really looking into our data will see that about the first 300 works of art can, if you line them up numerically, they also are in alphabetical order by the artist's last name. That was the very first database that was created back in like 1996 and 1997 in FileMaker Pro, and it mimicked the folders in the Public Art Office, the hard copy folders that were organized by artist's last name. After that, we just started adding more public art as it came along chronologically. So basically everything from record or artwork number 311 forward is chronological. There was no way to embed it back into the system alphabetical by last name. So as I mentioned, the ordinance creates the funding mechanism and the art board. The art board sets up a public art selection committee for every work of art. So the committee is comprised of neighborhood representatives, of user agency representatives. So if we're doing something with bicycle trails, we'll make sure that we have a parks planner, trails person that's familiar with the project. We have other stakeholders around each site. And when we purchase works of art for indoor locations like community services, family, senior centers, community centers, we also have representatives from those departments as well. So the committee, all artwork is selected by public committees. The staff does not actually select any of the artwork. All of those recommendations then go to the mayor's office for approval, and that's when the staff then works with the artists to develop contracts and to get them paid for the artwork. And as I mentioned, we have all different types of media all over the city. So this was the very first piece of public art commissioned in 1978 in Albuquerque. It was an alligator fountain at the entrance to the Albuquerque Zoo. And there was another project, the next one I'll show you, which was actually the first project to be started, but this is the first one to get built. As we know, in our city, things change. So we've reconfigured the front of the zoo, the entrance of the zoo many times. We reconfigure streets, we reconfigure trails. So also, public art gets reconfigured. So when that alligator fountain had to get moved from the front of the zoo, we gave it back to the artist and said, could you reconfigure this? And so he cut it up and gave us this. This is called alligator vase. And most people would look at this and say, why is it called alligator vase? Well, it's because it used to be the alligator fountain in front of the zoo. This piece is actually in the convention center now. It no longer has a blue tint to it. It's been polished. We've worked with the artist again. And it now is an indoor piece inside the convention center. So if we were to track this actual piece of artwork, with our project files, we would see that it has had many different locations and many different iterations. We have all that data, not digitally, but in our project files. So we have a really robust amount of information about our public art collection. This is the Southwest PA TOB by Luis Jimenez, PAC 0134, and it is located at the Martinez Town Park. And this piece was actually the very first call for commission outdoor public art. It was originally going to be slated for Old Town Park. There was controversy around it, and it got moved to Martinez Town Park. So controversy and public art have been hand in hand from day one. And we embrace our controversy because that's the beauty of public art. People have their ideas, their understanding, their aesthetics, the meanings, everybody gets to bring to a piece of public art what they feel and are interested in about it. So I just wanted to point that out. We have all kinds of works of art in lots of our different institutions and facilities. This is the Global Positioner by Evelyn Rosenberg in the Sunport rental car facility. So there's public art in places that sometimes a lot of local people don't necessarily visit. Most locals don't go to the rental car facility at our airport, but we have lots of tourists that obviously come through the airport and that will go and rent a car. And so public art has a very important role to play in letting visitors know about who we are and our identity in our community, our multiple identities in our community, by being located in lots of different locations. So this is just one set of hard files for every piece of public art that we have. We have at least double and a half this amount of file folders from which all the data has been collected over many, many years. And I personally am like having a hard time letting go of the hard copy folders because there's always little handwritten notes by the artist or messages from the mayor or Polaroid pictures of public art in process that we haven't digitized. So there's a lot of rich information, but we have worked really hard to capture the most basic information about every single piece of public art, and it's in these the now open source data file that we're all going to be working from. This is a screenshot of how we organize the digital data in our city system. We just refer to it as the X Drive. It's literally hundreds and hundreds of folders in Microsoft, in the system, and that's where we go. That's our go-to system. But more importantly, we also have a fully accessible, well, for staff, database that includes even more information. We've migrated from FileMaker Pro from the 1990s over many, many variations, finally into a program called TMS, which is the gallery system. We share this database with the Albuquerque Museum and the Albuquerque Balloon Museum. We have what we call an appended database to the master program that collects all the artwork about all the art and that collects all the information about all the artwork in the Albuquerque Museum, the Balloon Museum collection, and the public art collection. What we have been working on for 5 months with DTI and the staff is getting all of the most basic fundamental information about every work of art into TMS, and then we have then exported it into the open data files. We have also used many, many tools over the years. We have used GIS. They've been great team members with us, even though we haven't had updated data for many, many years. But we've had files where we have an interactive map, so people can click on the little red dots in the map, and it will pull up an image. That map is about 80% complete. There's a lot of artwork that's missing from that. But that's part of what we're exploring is how can we make this more exciting, more interactive for the public to use this kind of a map. I just wanted to share, if anybody's using that map, there is a code that comes from somewhere else. It's kind of a mystery code. None of us have really figured it out. That says the FID number, and it says Public Art 173. That is irrelevant. We don't know exactly. I personally don't know exactly what that means. But if you scroll down a little bit on each record, there is that right number, the correct number. So that was star chair, and the actual artwork code, the PAC number, is 760. So if anybody's using that resource of the interactive map with images, don't be fooled by that code that shows up first. Scroll down and get the actual art code. We've got an updated map that's just come together in the past couple of days, an updated GIS map that does include the locations of everything in the open source file, but the images are not attached, so we have both maps up. But it does come with more details with regards to the type of data that is actually in the fields. So I believe someone's going to speak to that a little bit more detail to that a little bit later on. Okay, so I'm now going to turn it over to Kent. Kent, I'm going to drag you to the other screen. Let's see. Now I can't see anything. Maybe I should have done that first. Hold on. I should go to speaker view, right? Is that what I should do? There we go. Hold on. Okay. So here's Kent hovering over some of the Bernalillo County public art. Just to make it better for everyone to see, I think I'm going to try to, I'll make this like, uh-oh, now I can't find my mouse. Well, all right, well, yeah, Kent, go ahead. Oh, hold on. Yeah, hold on. Oh. Okay, I also have my speakers up now. Oh no, I'm not getting any sound over here.
Go ahead, Kent. A little low, but
Okay, hold on. I am. Okay, hold on. I got this. I got this, I think. Okay, at least it's a little bigger. Okay, but I'm not sure we have, do we have sound there now?
I think it's a little low. I'll put it
Okay.
that way.
Okay, Ken.
Right, I'll try and.
Here we go. It's sounding better.
The voice a little bit. Is that good?
Sounds a lot better, I think. What do you think, folks?
Right.
Trying to think of where. Yeah, exactly.
All right.
Oh boy, that is better. Thank you.
All right. Fantastic. Great. Well, yeah, I'll go ahead and jump in. I know, yeah, my name is Ken Swanton, and I've been with the county's public art program for a little over a year. I started about a month before the pandemic really hit and the lockdown started. So, it feels very comfortable to be in a remote setting. And eventually, hopefully, we'll be back in person and doing more activities and public art outreach in person soon. But thank you so much for letting us join you today and the collaboration here. It's awesome to see just in general the collection between the city and the county. It's a pretty remarkable public art collection. So I just wanted to share a little bit about what we have and some of the differences between the city and the county's programs in terms of data, and a little bit of a history of the Bernalillo County Public Art Program. So the county's public art program started in 1992, and the collection currently has a little over 500 pieces. And what we have in terms of the public interface with our data is GIS story maps that are available on our fernco.gov website. And then, so that is really kind of the visual, and that's the interface where the public can really see and get a good sense of the public art collection. And so the GIS data is entered and generates that story map, and also generates our spreadsheet, which was provided for the event. And then also our GIS team has created some additional, they're basically dashboards that allow folks to access the data in a visual way, and that's kind of more an internal thing that we use for our arts board, for internal review, because it contains data that may not necessarily be of interest to the public per se on a regular basis, but it is available for when we share it with everyone who, if we're going to have meetings regarding our public art program and whatnot. It's just a little less user friendly, but essentially it shows, we track things like the conservation of a piece. So we actually have detailed notes about when conservation was done, what conservation might be needed for a public art piece. We also track things like the specific type of facility, whether it is on a median, on a streetscape, in a park, if it's on or in a community center, etc., if it's on a multi-use trail, so we can review the information about our public art pieces in that way with our data. But it, for the most part, is GIS based, and so that's been in place for a number of years, and I believe started with my predecessor, Nan Maslin. And so really that's kind of in a nutshell the Bernalillo County's public art program and a little bit of the differences in terms of how we track data. We are 5 districts within and around the city of Albuquerque, including the South Valley, the East Mountains, and unincorporated areas of Bernalillo County on the West Mesa and scattered around. So we have a pretty broad geographic reach, and we are looking at kind of tracking the data in terms of what counties have what percentage of artwork, and looking at kind of just diversifying the geographic areas that we're going to be locating artwork in the future. So that's definitely one of the goals with the program. And yeah, there's always really exciting ways to look at the data, and really what you folks are going to be engaged in is, helping us to maybe get a different picture of what our public art program looks like, helping us see it in a different way. And I think that's really super exciting, and I thank you so much for the opportunity, and look forward to see what comes out of this event. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Sherry, unless there's any other things you'd like to add. Sherry, I know you worked with the program for years and years as well, so yeah, thank you so much.
Awesome. Okay, Ken, thank you so much. I'm going to move him up to the corner. Okay, so and I guess I'm open for questions with Kent still here. He can hear us, and we'll see if anybody has any questions about sort of the general way that public art comes about, or general information. We have other presentations that go into a lot more detail. We'll have a presentation a little later this afternoon where we will give you all some ideas about what we would love to see happen with the data. So, but I guess if there's any questions. Kent mentioned something that is very interesting, and we'll talk about that a little bit, that all the public art is, positioned geographically. We have city council districts, we have county commission districts, we have legislative districts, we have, federal representation districts. So there's so many ways that we could, bundle and categorize information about public art in terms of the way it's dispersed throughout our community. Obviously, Bernalillo County really tries to focus on the unincorporated areas of our county, getting artwork out into the East Mountains, into the South Valley, into the North Valley. We are limited geographically to be mostly within the city limits, but there's rich amount of information just geographically about the public art. We have great information about the artist. Just Eric, did you have a question?
Yeah, well, I'm sure I've got plenty of questions. But one question, this is sort of a collaboration in some ways between city and the county. Is that something that happens? Does that ever happen, or is that something that happens occasionally when you're considering like a larger piece? Or I'm curious about the extent that collaborations exist.
Yeah, there's definitely been collaborations between the city public art program and the county public art program. And I want to, before I go into the details on that, I also want to recognize that we have a state of New Mexico public art program, which funds projects, public art with capital projects related to state facilities. So we are aware of data about like the University of New Mexico public art collection. Did we end up getting that? I don't think we ended up with UNM data. Did we end up with UNM data? Right, it's not in our bundle, but it's out there. We can work with them. But there's also federal percent for art. So our federal courthouses have public art inside or outside of them that was funded with federal. So we actually have 4 layers of public art in our area: Albuquerque Municipal, County, Bernalillo, State of New Mexico Public Art, and federal. So yes, we collaborate with the county on occasion in areas where we have sort of overlapping jurisdiction. We have one project that I know of where we collaborated 3 ways with the State of New Mexico, Bernalillo County, and City of Albuquerque, and that's at the Rio Grande Nature Center. So there's artwork out there that we might come across data, and it might have multiple funding sources because there was 3 different sources of funding that went into it. We have collaborated. We're actually in the process right now of trying to figure out if we can collaborate with Bernalillo County on some exterior murals. We still have some logistics to work out on that, but that again is tied to a location that is owned by the state. So there's 3 opportunities for us to bring funds together. So yes, we have some small amounts of collaboration, but for the most part, our collections are separate. Other question? Yes. Oh, that's a great question. Yes, we have had artwork that has gone away. It's been damaged, it's been demolished, it's been stolen, it's just disappeared. I mean, there are things, and we have a phrase for that. It's called decommissioned. So we commission new things, but then when it has to go away for one reason or another, we decommission it, and we have all of that information as well. And we do have several of our PAC numbers include works of art that have been decommissioned, because while the object no longer exists, we have saved the data about that artwork. I think your first part of your question was about the portable collection and when it moves around. Yes. Well, no, we don't get rid of it because aesthetically it's not exciting anymore. We feel like we're kind of like a little bit of a time travel program where we collect things from the 1970s and 1980s, and they might look very different, and the subject matter could even possibly be offensive now. and they're still in our collection. So we haven't gone to the point of decommissioning works of art. For those reasons, we have only decommissioned works of art because they are they're no longer viable as an object. But those are the kinds of conversations that are coming up all the time, and we are kind of like an encyclopedic collection of public art, in that we have all different types of styles and time frames. The oldest pieces of public art in our collection, actually, the oldest one is from like 1890. We adopted it. It wasn't procured with the 1% for art funds, but we ended up adopting it into our collection so we can take care of it. And that's the Robinson Park. It's the Braden Memorial in Robinson Park. So that's the oldest piece. And so there are other works out there that you'll see in our collection, and they probably don't have a funding source with them because we've adopted them. Does that answer all of your questions? Yes, we always have public art that is not actively on display because it's either like maybe it's getting reframed, maybe it shifted in the frame and we've got it at the framer, or we have it in storage because something else happened at the facility. As a matter of fact, just last week, a car drove through part of the Lomas Tramway Library and hit the wall with a piece of public art on it, so we had to take it down and put it into storage while the wall gets repaired. And so we intend to put it back in the same place, but yeah, it's not actively on display. And we're also, we rotate public art, especially the portable collection. People go to their offices, well, they haven't been for 15 months, but when they go to their offices for day after day after day, and this same public art is hanging on the walls for like 10 years, they get tired of it. So we're actually going to be undertaking a massive rehang of public art, which is one of the things we're going to talk about in the afternoon, about a way for us to better track their location as we move them around. Okay, any other questions? Yes.
Hey, actually, I'm sorry, we got a response from Kent also.
Oh, yeah, Kent, go ahead.
Yeah, Kent, go ahead and share.
Yeah, I was just going to chime in really quick. We are in the process of consolidating quite a few county offices to a new building downtown, Colorado Square, which is located on Silver Street and Street. So about 3 of things, centers for county activity, such as housing and assessors, are now moving that facility, which building with lots of natural light, downtown Albuquerque, and in a process of a ton of artwork and have a grand opening in August. Exact date to determine. Just wanted to let it's a distribution of artwork, creating at kind of a clean slate, displaying large collections. So just kind of be on the lookout for news and see that collections. So pieces in the collection that have kind of wave years and so much accessible area and space. So chime in so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Ken. Yeah, it's very exciting to know that the county collection is shifting as well. They're moving their pieces out of City Hall over to the new building. There's an incredible public art collection in the Bernalillo County Courthouse. So exciting news there. Mark, question. That is my job.
And actually, if you don't mind, can you repeat the question from the stage?
Oh, sure. So Mark asked if I have a favorite. And I do always say it's my job to love all the pieces of public art equally. But I will tell you that just from an impact, from a visual impact, from a community engagement, from a technique, from teaching youth, business skills to art making skills. I will always defer to the ceramic tile mosaic around this building as one of my all-time favorites, because it took 16 years for this whole ceramic tile mosaic to be completed. It engaged hundreds of youth. The thoughtfulness of the design that wraps around this building over 16 years is just incredible. And it's one of the pieces I don't think we promote enough. But I do love, I love Star Chair. I threw that one in because I'm a huge outer space fan, and I always imagine, like, what if visitors from outer space ever came here and saw public art? What would it say about us, right? So anything that's related to where we are, like planetarily in the galaxy, I love that. I love historical pieces. I love technique, painting. We have some incredible artwork that's made from very experimental materials. So yeah, I love them all. But yeah, I usually defer to the convention center mosaic. So yeah. Okay. Okay, I think we're up for a break. Or the next thing on our list is
I was just trying to figure out what that was.
yeah, the next thing is for breakout groups. To talk about options for breakout groups, and then we'll have a little break, and then we're gonna at 10 o'clock we'll reconvene and talk about the deploy-a-thon.
So I'll just.
Great. Oh, I did just also want to say real quick. I'm gonna do this really quick. Sorry, last slide. I really have to thank the hackathon team. First of all, I want to thank Miriam Deemer from the City Clerk's Office, and Melanie Majors and Mark Leach for bringing this project to us. Mark has been a huge supporter of our efforts to deal with our database for a very long time. And when Miriam and Melanie came together with this idea of the Foundation for Open Government doing an open data project, Mark said, hey, those public art people, they've got a lot of data. And we've been working on this database. I've had past staff for probably the past 7 years that have been trying to put all the data in this database. And Karen Major, Madrone Matishak, and Nathaniel Perry busted their butts for the past 5 months getting all of this data in. And we finally, even if nothing comes out of this, we have a finished database. I'm so excited. And then obviously all the folks at DTI who helped us, especially Jorge, who really was the interface between the TMS database and getting it exported with some additional little tweaks to make things a little more interesting. And Eric Renswentmore right here, who has basically been the glue to make this whole actual event happen. It's just been incredible. We've been meeting every Thursday afternoon for 5 months to pull this together. And I just want to thank everybody on this team for all the work that they've put in. So thank you, Eric.
Now I finally have access to Sherry's laptop. So my name is Eric Renswentmore. I'm I guess the brigade captain of a thing called Code for Albuquerque. But I was just going to share a few different things about what it is we're doing kind of over the next couple of hours and over the course of the day. So let's see. I'll just say this is sort of, it's a collaboration, but it's also something of an experiment. Returning, this is the first sort of public event for many of these organizations. So of course we decided to bring, several organizations together and do it both online and in person. And I don't know, there's probably a few other bells and whistles that are going on that I'm even not aware of. But to explain a few of the things that are happening, let's see, make sure. And basically, I've got the Zoom hub over there, and my cell phone's not available because it's a video stream. So some of the tools that I would love to have in my hand right now, I can't, so I've gone to paper and pencil. So next kind of steps, things that are happening. At 10 a.m., we're going to talk a little bit about what I'm calling a deploy-a-thon, but basically, it gets to a few of the different purposes we're here today. One of which is that, as Sherry mentioned, there's a lot of data. That the public art program here in Albuquerque has. But it's also sort of in these different formats. So there's file cabinets, there's the museum system, TMS, and there's a few other locations. What we're interested in doing is, to the extent that folks are interested, is we'd love to have some help sort of not just cleaning that up, but adding some additional quality, adding some additional information about different fields and pictures, things like that, to that database. However, some of that information isn't fully publicly available. So one of the things we're also interested in doing in the spirit of open data and open government is providing an opportunity for people who are kind of maybe more on the hackathon side or on the coding side. What is it you would be most interested in doing with this data? Now, I'm really interested in the public engagement aspect of it, but are there different sort of political or philosophical questions we want to ask and answer around where is public art around the city? How does that affect different neighborhoods in our community? All of those questions are really kind of open for us to discuss over the course of today, the week, and next Saturday as well. So that's really, I'd say, mostly kind of in the hackathon basket. But really, these things are all working together. We've learned so much over the course of working together to put this event together. But really, this is a great opportunity today, both for the folks who are in the room and online, is we want to hear from you and we want to get that kind of feedback, because we know we're going to learn a lot about how both the city, county, and others are deploying public art. A couple more things that I'll talk about, and then I will, and we're early for break. I'd love to kind of have an opportunity for us to talk in the room and learn a little bit about who else is here. But so there's the hackathon kind of stuff later on this morning. We'll see actually a show of hands for the folks who are in the room. How many folks are interested in kind of building something, whether it's as an individual or as working as a team? Do we have folks who are interested in building something? We're not sure. Okay, cool. Yeah, we've got like 4 or 5 folks. That's good. So that's going to kick off again. We're going to kick that off at 10:30. We'll see if we're creating teams, but we might just come up with what are the different projects folks are interested in. And sometimes the discussion of those projects can lead to some really interesting outcomes. Now, going into the afternoon, something to help us all understand what it is we're working on is at 1 o'clock, there's a discussion about public art and data that Sherry and some others will be leading, so that will be interesting. I've got another session that happens at 2 p.m., which is basically talking through some of the lessons I've learned and like a no-code project about how do we make this content available for folks who, like me, I'm not a coder. I haven't done that in many, many years, but I still want to be able to work with this data. And that's something that should be available to the wider public. So what is it we can do to make that a little bit more available? How can we share some of the tools to do that? So that's a little bit more on the shape of the day. And I don't know, I think I will leave it at that and let folks mingle and, I don't know, grab coffee or a beverage. Thank you very much.
Okay.
everybody. Okay, so data collection. One of the things. Yeah. Okay. So data collection. One of the things that we're looking for is going to be collecting information about the public art that we've got. Sometimes it's not where we thought it was. We hope it is. But it might not be in the condition we thought it was. There might be some information that we're missing on it. So what we want to do is we want to get out into the community. We want to start looking at the public art, taking some photos, and just recording information about that, about the piece of art. So to do that, we have got a web page which is available both on just regular browser on your smartphone, or you can use a laptop. We'll make the link available if it's not already out there, because I think we finished it late yesterday afternoon, so it's kind of like it's literally hot off the press. But I'm just going to take you through right now. As I say, we'll make the link available later on today. And then you just need a regular browser. Just go into it, click on the link, and it should take you. So this is a really, really straightforward website. First thing we're going to do is we're going to set our location. So to do that, we're just going to use, presumably if you're standing there, you'll be able to just click on current location. Of course, guess who didn't have the current location set? Okay. And then that should populate those fields there, be your latitude and longitude. You can also enter in the address, or just click on the map as to where you are. Okay. Take this. The next question you get. So the next question you're going to get is, what is the artwork code? Okay, and that's the PAC number that Sherry was talking about this morning. I'm going to look at Sherry for what does PAC stand for. Okay, okay, and where did we get that number from? Right. So that's something that you'll need to know before you go out to the piece of art. Okay. At that point, what is the title of the piece? Again, that is, you'll get that from the before you go. What is the type of artwork? And we have a bunch of selections there. Okay. And I'm going to look at Sherry for what some of these selections. When I looked at those, I wasn't sure what some of those terms. So can I just have you describe them? We've got art general, assemblage, collage, computer drawing, constructions.
Yeah, okay, so a lot of these are terms that come out of indoor work art, tag, label, right now we don't have you have photography, art made poses, and yeah, it's a whole different process. But there's lots of categories that choose. If something to you, go back.
Okay, so pretty well if you're not, and if people are not sure, just use general. We're good to go. All right. Okay, all right, moving on. Easy enough. What's the year of the artwork? Again, this is information you should know ahead of time, and it'll be on the artwork itself. Yep. Name of the artist, obviously, is on the dedication plaque. Address, which should be the same as the one up here, but if it's not, if there's any discrepancy, grab it there. And then uploading a photo of the artwork. Okay. This is where we're going to ask you to take a photo. Fine, there we go. It is for now. Believe me, it is. And then there you go. See, and then that'll upload. And then field notes if there's anything else you want to add. So how would you describe the public art and the surroundings? What impression do you have of the art and the site? Please share some remarks. And really what we're looking for here is your personal take on the art. Yeah? Like it, love it. Just give a sense. If you were describing it to somebody who couldn't see, yeah, how would you describe the art? And this is important because especially when we think about people who may have visual challenges, if we can give them an explanation of somebody standing next to them and kind of like describing the art to them, then in any applications that we write later on, we can use that as an assistant description of that piece of art. That's actually quite an important.
We're also very interested.
All right, final field is suggested tags. So really what we're thinking about here is hashtag, for want of a better word. How would you describe what hashtag to use it? Same way that we hashtag DataFest, hashtag, I'm trying to think, Zoom, yeah. Hashtag sculpture, hashtag whatever it is. What keywords would you use to describe? And then the most difficult piece of all is you're going to hit the submit button on the right. Okay. Now I know this is challenging. I could spend 10 minutes lecturing you on how to hit that hit the button. Maybe we should call it like, I don't know. But hit the submit button. That will then send all the information back to us. It'll then get recorded. We're going to be putting this information out, making results of this survey available as well. That pretty well. Does anybody have any? Nope. Okay. It is fairly self-explanatory. If you've got questions, if anything crops up, Sherry, myself, Eric, we could, Miriam at the back there. We've got. Okay. It is that simple.
About this, much of they are is already
Yeah.
much of the information about the artist, the year, the title of the work is already pre-populated. So really what we're excited about with this particular piece of software is this platform is to be able to collect the anecdotal information that we haven't been able to collect. We also want to see how people experience the public art out in their communities. So I know I just noticed that a couple of the fields have little red stars that are required. Like the name of the artist, that might be something that we make not required, because if you can't find the name of the artist, you know, we don't want you to not go ahead and update the information about what else is going on around the public artwork. We have a couple of other sites similar to this. This is our official sort of City of Albuquerque survey that uses the actual data that we've completely, yeah, it did. It just went live yesterday. So it should have almost every piece of public art. So a lot of that will load, as I stated. But the City of Albuquerque Planning Department also has a survey platform similar to this, but it goes into more detail and it allows people to click on a site and say, I wish public art was here. There is no public art here. I would like to have some here, and this is what I would imagine could be there. So I think we have that shared on the DataFest landing site. And also Eric has created a similar type of survey that allows for a little more sort of contextual information, but it's also connected to a spreadsheet, an Airtable spreadsheet type of data source that has color codes, particularly with the categories of the type of art that it is that already came out of our database. So we will share that one too. But this is the one that is directly connected to the official open source file that we're hoping everybody uses. I think the moral of the story of this presentation is that we have a whole bunch of different tools out there, and we want to share them, but we also want to figure out like how to hopefully turn it into one really great source. Do you guys have any other ideas or suggestions at this point? Karen, Madrone, Nathaniel? Okay, so this lives on the Public Art Interactive website, along with the previous map that has the photos, which I showed screenshots of that earlier. Both of these maps now exist there on the Public Art, which is cabq.gov/public art, and then you click on Interactive Public Art Map. And so this map, as well as the map that includes images, are both on that site. And I think hopefully, like by the end of the day, we should be able to get like all of these different sources on the hackathon, on the DataFest page. All right, other comments? Yes. No, we expect that people will be doing this mostly with the outdoor pieces. You know, on the weekends, city buildings are closed. Or a lot of city buildings are closed. Some of the city buildings are still not open fully to the public because of the pandemic. So if you find a piece of art that you want to go see inside a building, you know, like contact them and see if you can go inside if the doors are locked. But it's going to be really accessible for anything that's outdoors, and we would just love to be able to collect data all over the city. Yes, sir. Well, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I'm sure offensiveness is in the eye of the beholder too. So that's like really sort of like up to each person to visit the art and see if you find it offensive. Sure. Well, there's some that were, you know, depict certain events in history that are certainly contested and should be contested. You know, I mean, there's paintings in City Hall, there's sculptures of, you know, individuals and iconic types of people. So, you know, it's a matter of your personal experience. No, we do not have an offensive public art park. Yeah.
All right, one thing I will say is, obviously we're finishing this segment a little bit early. If you are planning on using this app, what I'd really like to do is make sure people can download it and kind of like at least bring it up on whatever device they're going to use, so that if there's any questions, then we've taken care of them here with the group, and we can get through any issues that any.
So I've added lead into the next segment. So I've added about ArtQuest,
Perfect.
Airtable, also a Google Sheet. That's all been added to the guide. So all that information. One thing I have to double check. Internally, okay. Don't.
All right, so I think probably if there's any questions about accessing that page, let me know, let Eric know, let anybody know. We can help.
So one thing they'll share, so that there's a survey one. Yes. That requires a login. Yes. Durable link.
This is it.
Oh.
Yeah, this is it. Eric, if you need that link,
Yeah, I'm using one now, so I've got that. Oh. Actually, so
I don't
for
mind.
however long. Let me if I can share this on. By any chance have the all our
Oh, yeah.
yeah, so we're kind of going into that. That's your or
That's fine.
laptop are we still on, right?
If you just need to go somewhere, fine.
So it is all our ideas. Backslash DataFest. Standing up always seems weird. So one of the things we created, so actually if anyone wants to visit, we were looking for a handy way to kind of suggest some ideas, but to get a sense of what people's responses were. So we used, and one of the things that I've been trying to do is to the extent possible, use free tools that folks are, that freely available and, not incurring a whole bunch of cost. So one of the questions we asked was what mobile and web applications would most help improve engagement with Albuquerque area public art. Let's see, let's see. I'd like to see how public art has been placed in the community over time. Sure, but now I'm gonna go to I can't decide. Let's see, I like both ideas. If you go through this segment, oh shoot. Hoping to get to the point where it shows me all the ideas. Oh, there we go. Okay, so you have an opportunity in here to suggest a new idea or to look at the different ideas that have been up there. But we wanted to create something that actually, for kind of hackathon purposes, gave us a starting point to look at. So what I'm curious now, and there's a few different ways to do hackathon activities, is really curious about what folks might be interested in working on. So this is a totally like interactive section. I will ask if somebody's on Zoom. Yeah, if just in case somebody chimes in, if you're on Zoom, go ahead and maybe in the chat, if there's something that you're interested in working on, go ahead and ask that there. Yes. That's a great idea. and so what I think, and I'm kind of thinking through the different sources we have, if you look, I think the most accessible to the public version that's in some ways most complete in terms of the public, what does PAC stand for again? Public Art Collection, yes, now I've got it too. If you're looking for that, it is probably the most complete version available to the public for the PAC numbers, but you can also look in there and you can see that there are a lot of fields that are not fully populated. So, one way if, I'm raising my hand and say, I really want to help the city and the community out, and the main way that I can do that is I can identify which of the pieces that are missing this or that piece of data, and whether it's going to the field or researching or talking with public art staff, I can help identify those. So I think that's one of the great ways to really make a big difference. One of the big ways to make a big difference fairly quickly is identifying kind of those gaps. Let's see, I'm curious. Well, actually, for the folks in the room, are there other ideas that you've been thinking about based on the discussion we've had today, or maybe what you've been thinking about when you saw this event come together? Sure. Nice. And I think, well, so what we're wanting to do is, so we're going to share, this is the portion where we kind of just share some ideas. So to the extent that you're interested, maybe write those down. There's different ways of doing hackathons. We're kind of a smallish group, so I don't know that we need to post a bunch of things on a wall and do voting. But at this point, let's just share some ideas. You had something? I love it. So I'll just say, you know, I vote, and I think that's that sort of trip planning thing is where my head went. I will also say that that's a little bit beyond some of the stuff that's available. You know, we want to try and make some of these things available for folks who don't do a lot of coding. No code stuff doesn't necessarily get you that far. So, but this kind of trip planning, route planning piece, I think is something that would be really valuable. It's something that I'm very interested in. Actually, so yeah, go here first, and then Mark. So Sherry, you need a little extra funding, but no, but the QR code kind of piece, I know.
We're going to talk about that.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, we have a whole.
Excellent, because I know, I think there's like, is it exhibits at the zoo that already have QR codes enabled, or?
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. Mark. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Other comments and questions for right this second? So what I thought I might do, and I'm going to put you on notice there, Sherry, because we're going to ask you to say something in a second. So some of the things that were most popular, but a lot of the responses so far were really kind of internal to the committee, and I think maybe some of the folks that have been participating in the Google group online. But basically making maps with public art locations more accessible, yes. Include links and information about artists. That's something we're interested in. That's probably more with the GIS tool, where, because it just sort of lends itself to more of a desktop experience. Searching for the artist. Does the artist have a web page? Is there other information that's available? If we can get that into the system, that enables a lot of other good things down the road. Identify the type of artwork to use. Customizable map tour guides, yes. And the thing that I wanted to get to with Sherry is this public art random experience generator. I know, and there's a link we can share in a little bit. Maybe I'm not sure if we share it in the group or a lot, but can you just talk just super briefly about what you're thinking with that?
Yeah, we have a little later, but we can cover it now. Maybe.
Oh, just to kind of throw the idea, yeah.
There's all kinds of randomly names, museum exhibitions. But stumbled upon a web.
Mm-hmm.
It would be like pop up donation.
Mm-hmm.
I kept like I've been what about I want to go to public art. Or I want to find all of the art. So that's but we don't have totals.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go see all. That's easy. All the ones are that. That's
Cool. Yeah.
data we need.
And I think you had a comment or question? Mm-hmm. Yeah, here's a photo and here's where you find it in real life. Let's see, Sherry, could you just ask in the Zoom, like two folks, just to see if they have any ideas or questions. So the joy, any other like thoughts or ideas of a thing that for the folks who want to kind of work on a project of things that you might want to work on? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mhm. Would that be appropriate for I'm not sure the shape of the discussion you've got going on at 1 o'clock. I'm wondering if this would fit in there or if it's like a different. But yeah, I think, I mean, I'd love to, like push that conversation a little bit further today. So that way, I'll just say like one of the earlier hackathons or the earliest hackathon that I'm aware of in the Albuquerque area was probably a crowd of developers about this size. And some of the stuff that folks were thinking about was, okay, well, it was really about what message we wanted to send to the city about whether it's like cleaning up some data or here's our priorities. The most interesting data sets are these. And if you could work on making it in this format or making an API available or something like that. But it was really kind of shaping the conversation in a way that the city could, Mark's the guy, that they could respond to versus we want everything to be on these standards and we want an API for everything. That'll shut folks down. But to the extent that we can have a pretty direct conversation about what's going to be most useful most quickly, I think that's really good. Yep. And I'll just say one of the things, so having worked in the city, but also in a couple of different roles sort of related to the city, I always appreciated the members of the public, whether it was the business community, developer community, whatever, that is helping drive that conversation. Because if there's not that interest, if there's not like, well, we're going to do a thing, if you make this available, we'll do something. Once that kind of conversation starts happening, that can potentially drive change. So I think that's really useful. Let's see. So this is the fun part. It's magical and just weird and works or it doesn't. Which is, to what extent do folks want to have a conversation about a particular project? Like, so is there a set of folks that are interested in the API topic? Is there a set of folks that are interested in kind of this route planning topic? And what we're looking for, I mean, sure, if something gets created today or something gets created over the course of the week, fantastic. But there's also things that folks can do as individuals. So there's a combination of the conversation that might happen here, but also could happen on Zoom or wherever you choose. One of the things that we have available, like I think it's in the DataFest page on the city site, but it's also on the hackathons page, is kind of a team and project info. So we'll ask if you're working on a project to kind of just at least share an email or some other way of getting in touch on what it is that you're working on. And that way, and if you're interested in having other collaborators, that way folks can get in touch and say, yeah, I really want to help with this, or not. Some of these things might be indie projects. I'm like, there's like a couple of projects I'm looking at, I'm thinking like, I can't do the experience generator, but I might do a scavenger hunt. Scavenger hunts are relatively easy. You know, there's some platforms that can help you do those kinds of things. So it's like, oh, yeah, that's the bite-sized thing that I could do as an individual. But given that we have some folks together in the room right now, I'm wondering if you all want to have some conversations, and then to what extent we can help those conversations happen. If you're in a big, like, you know, well, I don't know, I've never been to TechCrunch, but I've watched it online. And usually those teams are already together. But if you're like a startup weekend or some of these other things, there's a team building piece. So we can help, or I can help put people together. But given that we're, you know, 6 or so potential folks, not including the folks who are wearing these shirts in the room to talk, maybe what we should do is give us some space and then have, you know, see if you want to talk. Yep. Yep. Yeah. I see some nods. Excellent. I see a lot of nods. Well, so in that case, I'm going to shut up and stop being in front of the stage. I'll see to what extent the folks who are online want to try and get involved with something. But really, this is the opportunity for folks to talk. And sometimes that benefits from not having like Mark or me like be in the conversation, but occasionally kind of roving around. And is there something we can help? Does that make sense, folks? Well, cool. Well, I'll just say on behalf of the group and for now, thanks very much to everyone's participated so far. If you're interested in other ways that you can participate, you know, we got a lot of information. There's some stuff that showed up here. Mark, just back. There's some information that showed up here. There's some information that showed up online. If that's a little fuzzy for you and that's a little fuzzy for me, we might be able to help. Like if you say what you want to do, like I'm all about the artist. I want to get that artist. We can point you in a direction. If you're interested in taking photos, a couple of different paths to get those photos, you know, uploaded and into. Shutting up. Thank you for so far. The actual presentation, the next set of presentation content happens starting at PM.